Hey Ninja! Welcome back to my channel once again, and in today's video we are going to talk about the BPO or call center application process. So if you are curious as to what happens during the application process, then you should watch this video. By the way, today is already episode 5 of this video series of the Get Ready With Me to Get Hired next year. If you haven't watched the first 4 episodes, then I suggest you go watch them as well. After this video, I will link the playlist up there. Obviously, the process might be different in other companies, but based on experience, a lot of call centers or BPO companies already employ this application process. So it usually starts with the initial phone interview. With the initial phone interview, usually this happens when you apply online, maybe through job listing sites like JobStreet, or if you have probably submitted your resume during a job fair. This is most likely the easiest because the questions are generally about you and HR just wants to know if you're fit for the job. Even though this is the easiest, a lot of applicants, based on my experience, are still nervous when they get the call, or they still find this interview nerve-wracking. When I did the recruitment phone interview previously in my previous company, even though the questions are very easy, some applicants still struggle to answer them. So just so you know, the possible questions are most likely obviously to confirm your complete name, your birth date, determine if you are eligible to apply, whether you are a high school or a college graduate. No need to worry even if you're not a graduate, because a lot of companies accept undergrads, or as long as you're not a minor and you've got skills. You will also be asked for your work experience if you have any. And you will most likely be scheduled for the next interview. If it's a phone interview, then good. If not, then you will be asked to go to their actual office or recruitment office or building for your interview or face-to-face interview. So after this simple interview, and if you're initially qualified, again, you will be set up for an appointment or a schedule for maybe an exam or an interview at their actual office or building. So again, these could be over the phone or face-to-face. In some cases though, HR personnel or the recruiter will already proceed directly with the formal initial interview right after verifying your initial information, such as what happened to me before. They have confirmed my personal information, and after that, the recruiter or the hiring personnel already asked me questions like situational questions, how I handle stress, formal interview right away, and that can happen too. Now, if in any case that you received the call and you are in the most inconvenient place of all places that you can be during that time, let's just say you're commuting, you're in a jeepney or probably a bus or public vehicle or in a noisy area, it is okay to politely ask the caller or the recruiter to call you once you have arrived home, so that the information you'll provide will be clear and you'll be more confident with your conversation, because of course first impressions last, but not all the time. That of course at least you're able to set a good impression for your first interview. On the other hand, if you are a walk-in applicant or you really want to go to the actual office or the recruitment building, then your initial interview is obviously face-to-face. So when you go there, you will submit your resume, or HR will ask you to fill out a form, maybe their own resume if you don't have any, and for their own information or for their own reference. And after that, you will be called for a face-to-face initial interview. Again, same thing. It could be about yourself or your previous work experience. This interview might be short, probably 5 to 10 minutes. Really depends on the company. And after that, once you have passed the initial interview, or once they have determined that you can move on to the next phase, you'll be asked to wait. So it can be a whole day hiring process. So you really have to have the strength and energy to last the entire day. So bring something like snacks and water to last you for the entire day. And sometimes the tests or the assessments will come first before an initial interview, so they can be interchanged. Now, after your initial interview, then you may already be endorsed to take the call center assessments. There are quite a lot and different assessments for each company, so it really depends. You will expect to have first, it can be aptitude test. So what is an aptitude? Is it so hard to pronounce that? Aptitude test. Okay, it is a type of assessment that is designed to determine your abilities in performing industry-related tasks. Most likely, it is a cognitive aptitude test, and it will be used to assess your problem-solving ability, critical thinking, learning ability, and attention to detail. So sometimes it is pen and paper test, but most of the time it's an online examination on location. Some companies administer the VERSANT examination and some companies don't. But if you have that, or if you want to prepare for that, I have a 2-part video up there and I will add more soon. So go ahead and check it out. Another test that they will administer is a personality test. In this kind of test, there is no right or wrong answer, but a lot of companies have this. It's like a self-assessment to see if your personality fits the culture of the industry or the job. It's used to measure your behavioral traits and your tendencies. But then again, there's no right or wrong answer. You just have to answer the questions as honestly as you can. So even if you don't have work experience, it's still okay. We also have skills test. This is obviously to test the basic skills that you need to perform your tasks. I believe this is like similar to an aptitude test, but for the call center or BPO industry, the basic skills test might include English communication skills for your grammar, vocabulary, diction, comprehension, and or can be numerical tests as well, depending on which account you will be assigned. These can measure your trainability, your learning ability, and attention to details. If you want to practice some tests or written assessments for the call center or BPO industry, I already made some videos about that, so go ahead and check out the playlist up here. Another is computer literacy and internet knowledge. I also have a video about this. This is most likely about using internet browsers, applications, word processing programs like Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint if that applies to the company or your account. Another is typing test or data entry test, just to measure your speed and accuracy. Now, if you want to learn more about how to improve your typing skills or typing speed, check out my video up here. Next, we have the listening test. This is very important, especially if you're working for a voice account, meaning you're actually talking to customers. So you will encounter several telephone line and communication issues, communication breakdown and barriers when you are speaking with customers over the phone, obviously. And this will test your patience and ability to take note of details even when you are speaking with a barrier. Based on my experience, you will be asked to listen to some call recordings. In my case, I was asked to listen to 2 call recordings, but before the test started, the HR personnel told us that the first call is going to be the clear call and the second call is the choppy call. But when we had the test, it actually turned out to be the other way around. So the first call was the choppy call and the second call was the clear call. So if you are the applicant, you will expect that the first call is actually the clear call. So there's a possibility that you will just relax and will just think that it's okay because it's a clear call. I think he did it intentionally so that we'll be taken off guard. And so if you did not have the proper mindset, then you might not get the information or the details from the call. We were given a piece of paper And so I took the liberty to take down notes of the information, even though there were really no questions asked yet from us. And most of the things that I took note of are numbers, because I think those are the things that will be asked, like the account numbers, telephone numbers, and addresses, those pieces of information. And when we had the test questions for the listening test, I was right. Those were really the questions that were asked. So I was really lucky because I took the time to take note of those pieces of information, so I was able to pass the test. Now, the next one is a role play or phone simulation. Sometimes this will happen within the day of your application, such as in my case, but sometimes it will also happen the next day, or maybe you will be asked to come back. Maybe they will also administer this over the phone. In my case, it was on that same day that I was going through the entire application process. So for the role play or phone simulation, a lot of companies employ this test to assess your call handling skills. And even though you don't have BPO or call center experience, you will still have this test. You can't really say that because you don't have an experience, you should be exempted or whatnot. But you don't have to worry, because you will be given a scenario or the situation with all the details that you have to mention during the call. I know you might not be prepared for that, but it is okay. You just have to have the proper mindset. I already have a video about how to handle mock calls during application process. Again, I will link it up there so you can check it out after this video. In my case, that was a phone simulation for a travel account, although I was eventually profiled for a financial account. And it went well, except that the room was so cold. And somebody called me from a different location. And after that, everything was good. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that sometimes, even though, let's say you applied for a voice account, you will be given some tests that are not totally related to voice accounts. In my case, I was given an email test, and I think they do that so that they'll know where to put you or where to assign you, especially if there are a lot of accounts in the company or some accounts are also hiring. So they will know which account is the best fit for you. You really have to prepare for a lot of tests. Also, even though you applied for a non-voice account, for example, email or chat support, the interview is still going to be in English, and you might still have a role play or phone simulation. You never know. Can never know. And lastly, let's say, for example, you have passed all of those interviews and tests. The final step will most likely be final interview, or what we call operations validation or ops validation. In this stage, you will most likely be interviewed by a manager of the account that you'll be assigned to, or a hiring manager / training manager of the account, and a supervisor. So it depends. Final interview is the make or break scenario. A lot of things can happen during this interview. It might also be possible that during the final interview, they will insert some mock call or phone simulations with you face to face, just to assess how you are with your call handling tips. So expect for that. And you also have to expect that some of the questions that were asked from you during your initial interview or secondary interview will be asked again, just to make sure that you're consistent with your answers and you really stand by your answers during your previous interviews. And that's one way for them to find out that you're really telling the truth, or that you're really serious about the job application. I just also want to say that the possibilities are endless. You never really know how many interviews will be administered during your application process. So for some, it might be 2 interviews. For others, it might be 3 interviews. And it might be more than that if, let's say, you're not fit for one account and then they have to reassign you to another account, which means that you will be interviewed again. Once you have passed the final interview or ops validation, then you will be endorsed for training or to the training phase. And congratulations, you made it! If you did not make it or you did not pass the last stage of the interview, then it is okay, because you know what? You can always apply. That doesn't mean that you're bad or that you did not pass some of the assessments. Maybe you did. It's just that you are not fit for the company or the account that the company has as of the moment. And you can always reapply if you really want to be in that company. If not, then you can move on to the next company that you like. If you want to know more tips about job application and call center interviews, I have playlists for that. So just go ahead and check out the I button so you can check out the playlists after this video. If you like this content, please feel free to like, subscribe if you haven't yet, comment below, and I might just reply to you. And see you again on my next video. Take care and